I think it's second to none. And all of you guys, you're so lucky and fortunate. And then look, it's a big reason why you want to come to a place like Xavier, because you have this that allows you to be at your best.
This is the Sean Miller Podcast, presented by Deer Park Roofing. Now, here's your hosts, Paul Fritchner and Adam Baum, with the head coach of the Xavier Musketeers, Sean Miller.
Welcome to episode 3 of the Sean Miller Podcast. I'm Paul Fritchner. Thank you to our presenting sponsor, Deer Park Roofing. This episode today is going to look a little bit different. It'll be a film review with Xavier's sophomore wing, Desmond Claude. If you're listening to this in podcast form, I'd highly recommend going over and subscribing to our YouTube channel, where you'll be able to see Sean Miller and Des Claude go over some film from practice from last year's games. Take a look there, and if you are subscribed on YouTube, make sure you share it. Share it with your friends, family, anybody that's interested in this in college basketball. Make sure you subscribe on all podcast platforms and follow us on all social media platforms. Let's get right into it. The head coach of the Xavier Musketeers, Sean Miller, and sophomore wing, Desmond Claude.
Well, Des, number one, let me start off by saying this, Des. Welcome to the Sean Miller Podcast. You should be humbled and honored because you're the first player to ever be on my podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. I highly appreciate it, and I am honored to be on your podcast.
Great, great. Well, can't think of a better player, person to start off the 23-24 basketball season, and you being the first player on the podcast. I did it intentionally for a lot of reasons, because one of the things that I'm anxious to talk to you about here in this setting is just, what went into your mindset this off season to improve the way you have, because I think you and I both know you've really improved as a player.
Right.
But before I get there, I'm going to take you back. People ask me sometimes, where were you when the pandemic began? They ask me. And I automatically go to Las Vegas, Pac-12 tournament. I happened to be the coach at Arizona. We were playing Washington, and it actually was one of the last games, regular season games with people. And almost later that afternoon, early evening, and then certainly the next day, everything got canceled, almost like we were in a movie.
Right. Yeah.
Because of where you were, it was your class, like you were in high school, right? What comes to mind on that day for you?
I mean, it was a little bit of a heartbreaker. At the time, I was at St. Thomas More, being coached by Jerry Quinn, and hearing that, we was on lockdown, having to wear masks, stay in the room, and couldn't even hoop no more. It was just, it was heartbreaking. But, we got through it. We trusted the process. We went through, a whole bunch of steps to get everybody back. And then actually before that, we actually got sent home. We got sent home for a few months. And then, they was able to open back up, and we got everything rolling. But, yeah, it was definitely a heartbreaker from, hearing about COVID and everything shutting down.
I think we were all affected by it. So if you were in college, you lost your opportunity to play in that NCAA tournament, right? But I think your class, might have been affected the most, because if you keep going, right, now we get into the summer, which the summer is huge for you, right?
Yeah.
You're trying to be recruited. You've worked your entire life to be a Division I basketball player. And now you're wondering, are there going to be events? What are the events going to be like?
Right.
Do you remember, I guess it might be multiple summers, or those summers? What comes to mind, again, when you think about that?
Man, going into it, starting towards the end of the season at St. Thomas More, what me and my stepdad is we gather game film, and I started posting it on, Twitter and IG, just and sending it out to coaches. And then that summer, we were just grinding until, Coach Todd from Expressions, called everybody, was like, hey, we're starting up. And I remember the first tournament we was in State Right in Mass. And it was like everybody was eager to play. Like, it was super competitive, but that's the first thing I remember when we started to open back up in that summer. And then ever since then, it was working. And then I became one of the best players on the team, and I made a jump since then.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Do you ever think about, because here we are, we're getting ready to play in front of 10,250 people, right, on Monday. Everybody is so excited. How it felt to go out there and play with no people, right?
Yeah. Well, it's two completely different feelings. Playing, in a gym that's not that full compared to, a full gym. The pressure is like on, the spotlights is on, you're on TV. But, that coming back, on Monday, November 6th is, a really good feeling. I'm getting excited and eager, every day, every second that we get closer to that day.
So in the conference I was in, if you can imagine, right, you're coaching, and I had to have a mask on above my nose, coach.
Oof.
So every time that I talked, I had to pull the mask down. And the Pac-12, what they did at one point was they had people watch the coaches on TV, and they had a clock. And for every second that your mask was down, it eventually got to the point where they would give you feedback, and they would say, you had your mask down for 5 minutes too long, or you had your mask down for 2 minutes too long. I got to the point where they were going to fine me. Does that surprise you?
No, not at all. I mean,
Can you imagine coaching? I mean, I know it's hard to play without people, whatever, but actually trying to coach and have a mask on.
No, I couldn't imagine it. If I was in your position, I'll probably do the same thing. I mean, it's very hard because, coaching-wise, it's a lot of talking, a lot of yelling, and if we can't, and then in a packed gym, if we can't, read your lips, it's already hard to hear. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I probably would have done the same thing.
Yeah.
I probably would have just kept it down the whole time.
Des, what about the Peach Jam? A Peach Jam, it's the premier event on the EYBL circuit each summer. And when you think about playing for your travel team, the Expressions, again, those are signature moments for a young player. Right? What college are you going to go to the summer before your last year, the Peach Jam, what it felt like. When you think back to that Peach Jam, again, it was different time, right?
Yep. I mean, first off, it's nothing like it. I think Nike EYBL is the best, between the 3 different AAU, tournaments and stuff. So, but Peach Jam, it's just different, from watching it on TV, from watching Terrence Clark and all of them, and then being there and playing in front of, a lot of D1 coaches and having somewhat of a decent crowd. It was just amazing. But, at that time I didn't really, care about all that. It was just play, win, and then, get recruited by, D1 coaches and have the opportunity to play at the highest level.
So, Des, a year ago, we all came together. First time you played for me as a head coach, our staff. You're a freshman in the Big East Conference, away from home. Not for the first time, because you had that experience with the schools that you attended, right? We've talked about that as well. But really in college, it's a new chapter. And I think the most difficult year for anybody that's in college is that first year, in particular, even that first semester.
Right.
When you think back to your freshman year, in the classroom, in practice, weight room, what it felt like to play in real games, home and away crowds, what's the first couple of things that jump into the front of your mind when you think back to your freshman year here at Xavier?
What I first thought, it was just like I was grateful to be here, and get the opportunity. But I was like, man, it's tough. It's a big adjustment, from, starting with basketball first, like playing a lot with older guys, which I think helped me, obviously in the long run. But the pace of playing faster, everybody being quicker, faster, stronger. It's like I started from the bottom and had to catch up with everybody else. And but you, including the staff, did help me and develop me a lot, and to get where I'm at today. And then off the court, just moving around with academics. I'm pretty much by myself now. I'm not living under my parents' roof, so I would have to. It was an adjustment to hold myself accountable and and not be, lazy in the way, but to grow up, basically.
What's the thing that caught you off guard the most? Like if you're talking to somebody who's a high school senior and they're following your path, they're going to choose a college, play at the highest level in college, right? Basketball, even football, other sports.
Yeah.
And it's like everybody told you what was coming, but until you went through it, you didn't know. What is it that caught you off guard the most?
I would just say practicing and going 110% every rep, every time, pushing yourself past the limit that you never thought you really had. I would say that would be like the only thing that caught me, off guard. And to get, past that, it takes a lot of work and, a lot of effort. And if you could get through it, it'll really benefit. But I would say that's the first thing that caught me off guard.
So last year, I would say this constantly.
Yeah.
With team success comes the individual accolades.
Right.
It's amazing what the individual is able to accomplish, the individual player, when the team you're on does things that are special. Right. And really, for me, when I reflect back on last season, you think about the highlights, 15-5 in a Big East conference that was really, really good.
Right.
Finished second to Marquette. Got to the Big East tournament, Madison Square Garden, survived, advanced, got to play Marquette again in the championship. We ran out of gas. They were the better team.
Right.
But we went there on a Tuesday, and we didn't leave until that final game, right?
Right.
We're in the tournament. We get a 3 seed. Incredibly hard to do.
Yeah.
There's only 2 seeds higher than a 3 seed, I think it really reflects on the quality of opponents we played, the tough games we were in from start to finish, your freshman year. And then we get to the Sweet 16. On Selection Sunday, it's hard to describe that feeling, isn't it?
Yeah, it's real hard. I never thought I would be able to be like in that moment. And especially, for my freshman year to even get to those opportunities, other freshmen doesn't have that. So, but that feeling is totally undescribable. Like, I don't even know I was filled with joy. I was happy. I was excited. I had like like not a nervous feeling, but I was like antsy. It was just, my emotions was all over the place.
Yeah. And you think about what we talk, with team success comes the individual accolades. Obviously, Colby being an NBA player, playing for the Sacramento Kings, watching that dream come true for him.
Right.
Sule Boom, first team All Big East. I mean, not easy to make that one of 6, which he was.
Right.
Jack Nungy, being an all-conference type of player, playing now in Italy. Adam Kunkel. Watch where all those guys have gone. Yeah. And you being on the all-freshman team in the Big East, which is, again, an equally great honor. But, when you play in a program that wins and you have a special season, instead of chasing it individually, if you have a mindset of a player of chasing it collectively, where we play for the win, we play for the good shot, it's all about the final score. It's amazing how the respect comes your way.
Right.
And I think that, obviously you and I were anxious to continue that and recreate that this year. But I believe that's one of the lessons that you learned as a freshman.
Yeah, definitely. I learned that quick. And, my thing was coming in here was just to trust the process. And, hearing you, talk about that a lot, with team success and comes, individual success. The facts is in the pudding, like it's there. So there was no doubt in that, I would just trust in the process, and, everything ended up, becoming true. And the whole year was just a great experience. Yeah.
Favorite game last season that you played in? What's the one game?
Favorite game? UConn at UConn.
Yeah.
UConn at UConn.
And again, we won the game. Not easy to win at UConn. And to their credit, I think one of the things that you learn is why did that game mean so much to us? Because I think we all knew how talented, how good they were.
Right.
We also knew what a difficult home court that is.
Right.
And when you're the visiting team, not easy to go in there and get the win. And I thought, thinking about you in that game, you made some huge plays. As a matter of fact, I think that was your first dunk in the game. In college?
Nah, it couldn't be. Was it?
Maybe your second.
Maybe, yeah, it was either the first or second, but
Well,
it was
let me
a
ask
big
this:
time
did
dunk.
somebody tell you a long time ago to not dunk it and lay it in? Tell me what motivates you to just not turn it and punch it on somebody or the rim? Like, everyone loves to do it, but last year you loved to just lay it in. What is that? Where'd that come from?
Honestly, Coach, in my eyes, it didn't seem that I was as high. You know what I mean? So it didn't seem like I got up enough to turn it around and dunk it. But everybody else watching it, they're like, yo, you could have just turned the ball down, dunked on them, or you got to dunk the ball, start dunking the ball. And I'm like, all right. And then in practice, I started dunking a lot, and then, it translated to, that moment. But yeah, that was just my own. That was just me. I didn't realize I was, but that's changing though. That's changing.
And I really believe it. You almost said it there. That's like the growth and development, right?
Yep.
That a couple years ago, you didn't dunk it simply because you weren't in a place to do it. And all of a sudden, as you're bigger, faster, stronger, and more explosive, it's almost like you needed to remind yourself, I'm at a different level right now. But, I'll speak for you on this. I don't think that'll be a problem this year.
Oh, no, absolutely not. I'm dunking everything.
The Sean Miller Podcast is brought to you by our trusted friends at Deer Park Roofing. Protect what's important with Deer Park Roofing's industry-leading training, expert attention to detail, and responsive service. From commercial and residential replacements to roof repairs, gutters, and more, request a free estimate today at deerparkroofing.com. That's deerparkroofing.com.
So, Des, one thing that we do a lot of, and I'm anxious to talk to you about it in this forum is, we watch film, but I think that we do it a number of different ways. We watch film as a team, where everybody sees the same message. Sometimes behind closed doors, it could be you and I. Yeah. A lot of times it's you and one of our assistant coaches watching just things that pertain to you, from a practice, from a game, right? We share it on over the phone. We do it in person, etc.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a better way of learning. It's kind of both good and bad than this setup.
Yeah.
So I want to just kind of walk through. So we're transitioning from who you were as a player and who you are now. Yeah. Right? And we'll use some examples. So when you look at this film, we'll start with defense. And I think you know this, that your gift as a player and your impact even as a freshman a year ago is you are a two-way player. You're not one-dimensional. You're not the offensive guy that we have to apologize for you about your defense's lapses or effort, etc. You can impact the game with your defense. You can impact the game with your offense. And when you're at your very, very best, you do both in the same game. And here's some examples of kind of how we build this, right?
Yeah.
So defensively, I think there's a difference in talent, and that is guys that can be tough on the ball when you're defending the dribble, and then those that can dominate the ball. And this is an example, I think, of you being at your best right here, where you're right here guarding the ball, and I think that's Quincy. Yeah. And, at 6'5", 6'8" wingspan, great quickness and a good, solid mind, and somebody who I think enjoys playing defense. Yeah. Just watch the impact you have on this possession, where you make him pick his dribble up, you use your toughness and size and length, you deflect the pass, and now look where the pass goes to the backcourt. Now that's an example of really, really good, and Quincy would probably look at that and say he can do better, but not everybody's gifted to be able to do it. And I think you know this. When you can do that, the impact it has on our team is significant.
Right.
Got a second clip here, same thing. Tough on the ball. And, I say this all the time. Win your one-on-one matchup when you're on defense. What does that mean to you?
If a guy, you're on defense, or if I'm on decent defense and the guy's coming at me trying to score, and try to make a play, then I gotta win that battle. Don't let him score, make him pass, make him pick up his dribble, make him make a bad play. And, I'm always thinking that, and like you said earlier, like I do enjoy playing defense. I take, really good pride in it. I don't like getting scored on. So And that's my mindset every time. You know, I got to win my one-on-one matchups and play defense in general. Yep.
You know, we say it, when you can win your one-on-one matchup, and again, this is Musketeer madness here, us against us. You win your one-on-one matchup, you make our team defense better. And it's like you go over the ball screen, we're in drop coverage, you beat up the screen, you're physical without fouling, you get your body in front. And again, even though Quincy goes down the lane, you're in the play, he has to score over your length and size, and he takes what we call a tough two.
Tough two.
But I look at that as you winning your one-on-one matchup. We don't have to help for you. Everybody can help and recover. We're in good positioning. Look, we have 5 players in good position in large part because you're handling your business one-on-one. Not easy to do. This is live action last year. I think this is Marquette. Yeah. And you're going to see, I think you and Jerome get into a situation where you have to, what would you say?
I would have said switch.
Switch, right? Again, crowd's loud. This is your freshman year. You look at the score, it's 61-61. This is a great game. You both are on the ball. But I'm going to show you your recovery to a good player, hit him with your chest, show your hands. And I think that's something you've really gotten good at. We talk a lot about it.
Right.
Like part of winning your one-on-one matchup is to not foul, right?
Foul.
And showing your hands. We don't need you getting in foul trouble trying to be overly aggressive. But you see a great example of you create a tough two almost after a mistake where you didn't switch, but you recover back, show your hands. Again, an example of winning your one-on-one matchup. Playing Creighton, the same thing here. And the thing that I believe makes your future so bright, and we're going to ask you to do this all year. So in a couple clips, you're guarding a wing player. You're guarding a true guard. You know, in this case, Kaluma that played at Creighton a year ago, he was their 4-man. And right now you're on him. You close out. Great job on a closeout. One more time. High hands. He tries you. You hit him with your chest. He tries you a second time. You hit him with your chest. And the turnover happens because a great example of you competing and winning your one-on-one matchup. Constant pressure on the other team when he can't go by you when he tries. Same thing here, right? Now you're guarding, there are 2 guard playing Butler late in the season a year ago. Completely different type of player you're guarding here. Here you are on him right here. Again, we switch. Now you're on a 4-man. Do a great job crowding, helping Jack Nungy, making the post player pass. Another great closeout. Now he tries you one-on-one. You watch your hands. Again, there's nobody on our team, and really very few players that I've coached that can guard the ball one-on-one better than you. And look, among the many things this season that we're going to ask you to do, you're going to have to guard the best players in the country, and you're going to have to win your one-on-one matchups throughout the season, right?
Absolutely.
Make our team even better defensively. But great job. Again, creating a tough 2-point shot. So, two-way player. The thing about offense, Des, and I think everybody's about ready to see this, you've made a huge jump from your freshman to your sophomore year scoring.
Right.
You're today's guard. You know, you can distribute, you can play the point, we can play you off the ball. And I think you know this, that we're going to ask you to score more this year than a year ago. So I'm going to get to this, but anytime in our offense that the defender goes under, he goes under, I think a year ago you would say, man, do I shoot that?
Yeah. Yeah,
do I have enough confidence? Is coach going to get upset if I do shoot it? Am I going to make it? How do you feel about this right now?
Oh, super confident.
Yeah.
Last year I was definitely indecisive. And
I think that's the element that you've really added through so much hard work over the last 5 months. But guy goes under, that's an automatic. There's nothing to talk about. That's a great shot for Xavier. That's a really, really good shot for you. And I think you and I know more than anybody that you've become a very, very good three-point shooter. Here's from the summer when in our new gym. So free throw decision. What does free throw decision, we talk about that in our offense a lot. What does us saying free throw decision mean to you?
So it means that, to make the right play, the goal is to get to the minimum to get to the free throw line. And then, I have all my options, whether it's lob, high field, kickouts. So
here it is
right here, just to make the right read. So what I do. The big was up too high, and I knew I was throwing a lob.
Right.
So
we say it a lot. You get in this area, that's a free throw decision, and you got corner, you got the roller, you have the duck in. You really have your own opportunity, and like you said, you're just reading, in this case, Ian, right?
Yep.
And if that roller gets below him, free throw decision means land on 2 feet, jump stop, which you do a great job of, late lob, and you got Lazar an easy basket.
Yep.
I think you're getting better and better at those free throw decisions. I think the other part is in our offense, we want to reward the roller. All right, so on our pick and rolls, we want to make sure that we deliver the ball. And I think the point that I make to you sometimes is don't be afraid to let the ball get out of your hands.
Right.
Let the offense work for you. You don't have to make the offense work for us. Right? When the ball has energy and we're cutting and you just make quick decisions, whatever the right decision is, make the right decision. And that right here is they put 2 people on you, right? 2 people on you. Who's open? The roller. And you put Kachi in a great position to get fouled and score. This is, I think, UConn a year ago at home and alley drive. So explain the alley drive.
So I come off a ball screen and, Klingen, in this case, isn't really stopping me from going downhill. I pretty much have a lane. It's drop coverage, and, he's worried about the roller.
Yep.
And then on top of that, Zach Freeman, he's ducking in.
Yep.
So,
and this guy here, right, can really shoot it.
And Sule, shout out to Sule. He's a great shooter, so they was all worried about him. So I seen the opportunity to keep going, and they didn't stop me, so I got to my floater. And
so we take the alley drive. And I thought the other thing on this clip that's good to point out is the importance of Sule not standing there.
Yep.
As he sees you take the alley, he runs away, takes his man with him, and that opens up that opportunity.
Right.
Pace is probably the word that I say more than any other in practice, right?
Absolutely, definitely.
And we want to play with pace on makes and misses. Here's a great example when you're playing the point guard position and you see, what option is this called?
Point to post.
Point to post,
Yep.
duck up, Jerome.
Duck up.
And a great job. It almost looks like a one-on-one game, right?
Yep. And I would say that's one thing that, definitely coming in from, as a freshman is, I had to learn, to keep pushing and even when I'm tired, to keep running and, outrun everybody because, at the end of the day, they still have to guard us. So if I'm tired, I can only imagine what they feel like with how much movement we do. And I think that's one thing that I definitely, improved on, as time went on.
No question.
The Sean Miller Podcast is brought to you by Deer Park Roofing, and their company motto is protect what's important. Deer Park is not just another storm-chasing roofing company. They're invested in your community and truly care about the people in it. You can trust them to do the job right. Deer Park has highly trained professional technicians who make sure your residential or commercial roofing system is installed correctly and quickly. For a free estimate, visit deerparkroofing.com today. That's deerparkroofing.com.
So, Des, here we are about 4 days away from our season opener. And, we talked about how hard you've worked this offseason. You have a new role on this year's team. And from a mindset perspective and just a general disposition and attitude, tell me your mind right now as you get ready to go through these next 4 practices and here begin your sophomore year. What's different about your role? How do you think differently? What do you think is the most important points for you to be the best player on our team this year?
With the team this year, having a lot of new guys, I think, my first main role is to be a better leader, a team leader, more vocal, try to help lead the guys, that came into Xavier. I feel like, we've been through a lot my freshman year when it came to winning, losing, or, just a lot of different scenarios. So me being here and have done it, obviously like boosted my confidence and to be, one of the guys offensively this year too as well. Last year we had a lot of good players like Kobe, Kunkel, Sule, Jack and Zach, and then I squeezed in a little bit. But I feel like since they left and got a new team, and I'm pretty much, the only returner, outside of Cam coming back, it's like I know the standard. You've been preaching that a lot lately. Keep it the high standard that we have. So I feel like my job is to continue to keep that standard and hold everybody else accountable for that standard.
I talked to you a lot about being a two-way player. And we showed examples of you doing that a year ago and in practice every day. But, the energy that it takes to guard the other team's best player, one of their best players, and then do it again and again and again. And at the same time, offensively, make three-point shots and be a scorer and be a distributor and play their game the right way. It takes an abundance of energy and focus.
Absolutely.
And I'm confident in saying this, that the process that you've had in place since the last day of last season, almost that next day, to Sunday night before our season opener, that's what's prepared you the most to be who you are this year.
Right.
The mindset of going out and doing it, of course, that's important. But the day in, day out grind and work, putting up shot after shot, being in the gym, lifting weights, and working through those tireless weeks and months of the summer, you're ready to go. I don't have any concerns about it. I thought the other thing you and I have been talking a lot about is, but when you're under the gun like this and you're the hunted, you're a guy that's going to be on every team's scouting report.
Right.
And we're asking you to do both. Defense, offense. You said third thing, leadership.
Yeah.
You got to do a great job of taking care of yourself.
Absolutely. And and I knew that's one thing we talked about at the, right after our last game of the last season. And, me and you was on the same page about things. So definitely taking care of my body is one thing that I'm always, on, whether that's getting a cold tub, Normatex, or going to our athletic trainer, Connor, and just, being there and making sure that I'm good to go. Because like you said, being a two-way player, having to guard the best defenders and in the country, and also, doing my thing on offense, it is a tax on the body. So I definitely agree with you on that. Yeah.
And look, the weight room we have, the training room we have, the setup we have here in Centos, and I think it's second to none. And all of you guys, you're so lucky and fortunate. And then look, it's a big reason why you want to come to a place like Xavier, because you have this that allows you to be at your best.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, Des, looking forward to coaching you in year two. You're a fun guy to coach because you bring it every day. And you're also, your demeanor, your attitude, who you are, regardless of what happened the night before, how you did, how we did, you have a great way of being the same. That consistent demeanor and attitude is one of your gifts.
Yep,
And,
absolutely.
And I'm excited to see where we can go with this, all right?
Yep.
Rapid fire. Rapid fire is the last segment on the podcast, okay?
Okay, I'm ready.
I just go off the top of my head. Favorite restaurant outside of our campus in Cincinnati?
Oof. Jeff Ruby's.
Jeff Ruby's.
Jeff Ruby's.
Okay, the one downtown.
Yeah. The
And
the
if
nice
you're there
one
in
with the Jordan
Ruby's, what
shoe.
do you order?
Oh, I get the cowboy steak. That's the biggest steak they got. Cowboy, then we get a whole bunch of sides, and then
That's because you're not paying, right? You're on the house because you're hosting an official visit.
yeah, absolutely. That free meals, that's it. That's
What
it.
about that dessert, though?
Oh, the dessert is amazing. They got like the Jordan shoe coming out. They got the lights around it, whether it's blue or gold, and it's just delicious. Delicious.
So Skyline Chili is a thing here in Cincinnati. Oof. It's not necessarily a thing everywhere, but you know that as soon as you come here, somebody inevitably is going to say, have you tried Three-way, Skyline Chili,
Yeah.
et cetera. Are you a Skyline Chili guy or no?
Sad to say no.
No.
I'm sorry. I tried it, and it just wasn't given, you know.
Yep.
First of all, it wasn't given the regular chili that I'm used to, you know, back home, you know, when my mom makes it. And then
It is different.
Yeah, very different, you know, tasting different. So to me personally, and I'm sorry, but I'm not a big Skyline guy. You know, no.
How about back home? What's your favorite place to be at outside of your house?
Man, that's a good question. Well, outside of my house, my aunt's house, she also cooks a lot. I don't really go out as much, you know, when I'm home. But, if we do, I got a big family, so we'll go somewhere regular, like, TGI Fridays or Applebee's. But most time we cook, home cooked meals. They either have me cook or my mom or dad will cook.
So what do you cook?
Oh, and pretty much everything.
Really?
Steak, fried chicken, baked chicken, rice, mashed potatoes, anything. All three, breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
I'm going to keep that in mind. Yeah.
Yep. You need me to make you something, I got you.
Des, if you watch TV, Netflix, Apple TV, you name it, so many different channels. What's your show? What's that show that you love to watch outside of sports? Do you have one?
Yeah, I have two. Right now, I'm currently watching Suits. It's a really good show. It's about, the law and all the other good things. And then there's another show called The Chosen. It's about the story of Jesus, in the Bible and stuff. And, I really enjoyed that show. I finished it, but they're coming out with a new season soon. So, when that comes out, I'm definitely going to be on that. But as of right now, Suits.
Favorite NBA player?
Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. We have a similar build and type. Our games are somewhat similar. So just seeing how he creates and how he does things and watch and see why the NBA likes him. That's the reason that he's my favorite player.
And what's your favorite Big East road trip?
To be honest, I would say either Providence or UConn.
Going back home.
Going back home. Obviously UConn is very personal to me. But outside of that, just the people there, with the crowd, and it's a good atmosphere to not necessarily to be at, but just to have a packed arena outside of Centos.
I've been away from New England for some time, and when we went back to UConn or back to Providence, one time when I was at Arizona, we played in Hartford against UConn, but it had been a while since I've been in New England. But back in the day in the 80s when I was in the Big East, right, and played, it was fresh on my mind about how passionate the fan bases are.
Absolutely,
and how tough the crowd can be. And it reminded me this year when we went to those places. And I think that's one thing that it's so fun to play in the Big East.
Right.
I mean, look, our crowd is second to none here in the Centos.
Absolutely.
But like the road trips, playing in front of those hostile crowds,
Right.
I think it can bring out the best in you as a good player.
Absolutely. Having to deal with the pressure and in that case, everybody being against you and still, beating the teams, or it's a great feeling to have. So.
Last question.
Okay.
I played in the Big East from 1987 to 92.
Okay.
I believe it was known as the most physical college basketball league in the history of college basketball.
Yeah.
People from that era, players that I played with and against, I think they share my sentiment. So it's not just me. I mean, at one point they allowed 6 fouls in a game. It was physical.
Yeah,
Hall of Fame
very.
coaches, toughness. Do you think you could have survived in my era in the Big East? Do you think you could have made it? Or do you think you would have potentially switched sports and played volleyball or a different sport? Like, do you think, like from a generation perspective, that you would have been able to handle that type of physicality?
Absolutely. I mean, first of all, I would never say no to that question, number one. But I think, no doubt, back in the day with the Big East, super physical. But I think, with my body frame, especially with having Ket, as a strength and conditioning coach, definitely think I could have competed and played and did well too, on top of my skill set.
I do too. Yeah. I do too. And that right there, me saying that's as good of a compliment, as big of a compliment as we can. That generation can pay a guy like you. You could have survived and done really, really well.
Thank you. I truly
All right, Des. Thanks for being the first player on the Sean Miller podcast. Enjoyed talking with you.
Thanks for having me.
I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode of the Sean Miller Podcast. Stay tuned for another episode next week. And again, make sure, if you haven't already, subscribe on YouTube and all social media channels at Sean Miller Pod. Thanks again to our presenting sponsor, Deer Park Roofing, for all they do for this show and helping make it possible.
This has been the Sean Miller Podcast, presented by Deer Park Roofing, with your hosts, Paul Fritchner and Adam Baum. Join us again soon for another episode with the head coach of the Xavier Musketeers, Sean Miller.